I was putting on the legs and using a screwdriver to tighten up this inside bolt here, this inside screw rather, and these two outside ones on each of the legs, and I found that it wasn't getting tight enough, so I ended up going with a socket with a Phillips head bit, and I found that I could really snug things up really well. So probably something I would recommend for assembly for you. So after you get the wheels on, you've got to put the pre-assembled control board, this sucker here, you got to put this control board and mount it to the front caster wheel. So you see on both sides over here there's a pre-drilled hole. It's hard to see. I'll try to put my flash on. There we go. So pre-drilled hole here, and another one just on this side here. So I'll get those in and snugged up, and we'll continue on. Okay, so we'll get this in and snugged up and continue on. Looks like I've got it somewhat cross-threaded here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so that's all in and snugged up, both sides, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so the next step is mounting the support panels, and the support panels are basically just braces to put between the legs here. So a couple bolts in front, a couple in the back, two support legs, like I said, 2 holes here and 2 holes there. So it calls for 8 of them. There's 8 holes. Should be good to go. Stay tuned. All right, so you can see here I'm just threading these suckers in. I kept this pretty loose just to allow for a little bit of play in the panel so that the screws can go into the pre-drilled hole mounts better. I gotta say this is a really nice simple assembly, and all the parts they fit exceptionally well. The fit and finish of the product is just incredible. So good job, Louisiana Grills. Okay, so the next step is the support bar for the back 2 legs. So this is it. Pretty darn straightforward again. Oops, sorry about that. Again, we've got some I guess pre-drilled screw holes here, which marry up to the holes on each of the back legs. So I'm going to get it in place and get the screws fastened on. Okay, so I've got all the screws started on the bar now. I found that I had to just kind of pull the wheels in a little bit, which is great. You know that you're going to have a nice tight fit and support on the bar rather than having having things too loose once it's all assembled. So everything is in, and I'll just get these screws tightened up and we'll continue on. Okay, so the next step in the assembly is mounting the grease exhaust tube, they call it. So that is just simply mounted right there with a couple of really tiny screws. So we'll get that going and we'll continue on. Okay, so that's all done. I'm just going to give them a little bit of a snug here. There we go. Another side. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so mounting the power cord support bracket. So all this is just locating these 2 holes on the left side. Left, see, it says so right there. Left side of the smoker and using a couple of tiny screws, these ones here, to mount it in place. Okay, so that is mounted in place. Next we've got to loosen this off. This is the bracket that will slip the power cord through. Power cord just comes wrapped like this. We'll loosen that off. We'll slide the power cord through there and then wrap it around the mount that we just installed. Okay, so we've got the power cord wrapped up. It's a little bit, it's got a bit of memory from its previous packaging, but got it in place. The power cord itself has the clasp there to grab onto itself, and then I just kind of left a little bit of play here so that it's not pulling on the control board too much, so I'd suggest doing that as well. Alright, so the next step is to install the heat shield, and the heat shield is this little doohickey. It was actually in the bigger flat box there underneath the drip pan, so looked for it for about 2 minutes and then I found it. But again, same idea. Holes are pre-drilled, get it in place, and these little screws is what it calls for, so we'll get those in place. It's a little tough to do with one hand, but this is so nice to assemble that it actually can be done with one hand. So we'll get that in and be back with you. Alright, presto. Fasteners in and tightened up. Alright, so the next step is to install these grease tray brackets. So they are installed somewhere over here, probably like this, as well as, oops, get that out of there, as well as this this guard, so it kind of protects the wires and so forth. So we'll get that going and continue on. Okay, so we've got the grease tray brackets in here, and the whole concept is the grease tray slides out the front below the control panel, which is over here, and then sits below the grease tube. And as well, I mentioned the shield for the wiring, so that's just over on the side as well. Okay, with that, that is the assembly on the bottom side of the smoker, and what I'm going to do is just flip it over and we'll get to the top side.